Thanks for the follow, Hoss. We'll be starting very shortly. Get yourself drinks, go to the loo, get yourself comfy. We'll be starting in, let's say, another minute or two. And of course, while you're waiting, please follow all my socials for latest updates. Right, let's get this show on the road. Good afternoon, everybody. Let's get everything over to the live scene. There we go. Camera's okay. Excellent. So, welcome to another episode of The First Draft. This is the third of our 3 live streams we have done on planning this story. So on Thursday we went through plot. We came up with the rough story. On Friday we had a look at the worlds we were building. Today our task is to develop the characters. Now if you're new here, the idea behind this series is simply what I am putting together is a web serial, so that there will be a new episode of the story, or initially start off with, we're going to be doing every weekday. It will then go to every week. There will be a new episode. But what's important is that the writing of it will be live streamed. So it's called The First Draft because that's what it is. It is the messy first draft. And it's an opportunity for you to see how that gets written, to ask questions, maybe make some suggestions. It's a bit of a fun activity. Hey, Bad Fox, how you doing? Welcome along. Good to see you. So about myself, very quickly, if you don't know, my name is Adrian Faulkner. I am a writer. I've written novels. I'm doing a lot of writing for games at the moment. I do shorts. I do scripts. Although I'm still dabbling in the scripts. And this was just a fun project because I think that we don't often get to see how things get created. So what better way than to, instead of doing a video that says how to create characters, well, let's go through the exercise. Let's create characters and then you can see how they're put together. So I have cheated a little bit today, and one thing you're going to learn with the first draft is I'm going to cheat as much as I can. Still be transparent about it, but I will cheat. Because, obviously, normally if I was writing a story, all this 3 days worth of work, like, I've managed to do it in a month before because I had a contract. You've written several stories, just never shown anyone. Well, you know, show them when you're ready. It's a fun activity to do. And one of the things I want to kind of do with this series is to kind of show you that, like, everybody's first draft is you know, when you write a story, you love it, but you don't want to show it to anybody because you're worried that they might hate it. Well, the first draft is always kind of a bit rough. And there's nothing wrong with it being rough. So it's kind of trying to break that spell because all that mysticism around it. Because if you read a published novel and you think, wow, this is so good, that's so far away from what I've written, they've probably done 4 or 5 drafts of that story. That's gone through a copy editor, an editor. It's probably gone through structural things with an agent. So I think some people get put off from sharing their work because they're worried it will be bad. And a lot of the time, it's not. You know, some of the words are, and there's typos and there's spelling mistakes, and we all do that, and you're going to see tons of typos and spelling mistakes. But, yeah, so this is kind of, hopefully, if nothing else, just to encourage you to kind of write more stories. What sort of stuff do you write? Sci-fi, fantasy, romance? There's lots of different types of stories to do. So one of the things that we're going to do today is we're looking at characters. And I take a long time over characters. And because I don't have the time, I just have one day to create all these characters. I've actually already just written a list of what I need to create based on the work that we've done from the plot and from the world building. Now, not every character is listed in there because some of them are not going to be, they're not going to have character arcs, they're not going to need to be defined. And what do we mean by a character arc? And this is difficult with an ongoing serial. This is going to be a challenge for me. This is kind of part of where the fun is. So normally within a story, what happens is a character starts at a situation. They are in this kind of normal world. Something bad happens and they have to go through this physical journey, you know, where things happen and they try and resolve the situation. But good stories, you mainly write fantasy. Excellent, that's my favourite. Who's your favourite writer? So as we write these stories and there's like this plot arc, you know, so, you know, the princess gets kidnapped, we gather a team together, we go and kick ass and we save the princess. That's one level of story. But on top of that, there is another layer. And that is about the character. So, I'm thinking Star Wars in the back of my head at the moment, because I'm thinking that's a very tropey type story. Star Wars is kind of very good to look at if you want to kind of look at the standard tropes of what's known as the hero's journey. So it's basically, you know, they're a farm boy, they get a call to action, you know, like basically the droids turn up and say, you know, we need to rescue Princess Leia. They gather their team together, they rescue the princess and save the day and destroy the Death Star. Okay? So, what then happens is that there is also that character journey of Luke. So when Luke starts, he's wanting adventure. He doesn't feel like he has any destiny. And basically, as the story progresses, he becomes more confident. He becomes this warrior that he always wanted to be. So it's that story of him not only fulfilling his destiny, but going from a farm boy into kind of like an apprentice Jedi Knight, effectively. So good stories kind of work on those two levels. So that's why it's kind of really important to kind of work with your characters and kind of get an idea of where that's going. Now, when you're writing a web serial, it's a little bit different because there isn't this character arc. So what we need to do here is kind of put the pieces in place and allow the story to play out. So this is going to be a challenge for me and in writing it, because I'm not going to know where that arc goes. So what I have done, and I never normally do this, I normally, in my first draft, for example, I'm writing a novel at the moment, and in that I have a character, I kind of wanted a non-traditional woman in that thing. And, you know, fantasy especially tends to be very much, you know, like, you know, chainmail bikinis, or the meek housewife. And what I kind of wanted was, you know, kind of a woman who was maybe slightly larger, maybe slightly older, just to kind of fuck with the tropes a little bit. And when my initial kind of inspiration for that character was to make them like Brienne of Tarth, because although what's her name, Gwendolyn Christie, does a fantastic job in that role, she's a little bit she's a little bit more pretty. That's a bit of a sexist word, but do you know what I mean? She's described in the book as being really quite kind of ugly, you know, and not that to sort of degrade the character, but really to kind of, you know, break her out of that trope. And that's kind of why she wants to be this kind of warrior knight. But I was like in the back of my head using that as the inspiration. But then I don't know if you've ever seen Prisoner of Cell Block H. Is it Prisoner of Cell Block H? I think it is, yeah. No, it might not even be that. There's an Australian prison drama set in a woman's prison. And my friend is a massive fan of it, so we sometimes have it on. And there's a character in there called Boomer. And she's very hot-headed. She's kind of big, kind of a big presence, and, you know, not as in fat, but she's really tall as well. Kind of clumsy and doesn't fit like the female stereotype. And I found myself writing more towards that character. So one of the things that happens is that I will develop characters as I write the first draft and then tighten them up in the second draft. I can't do that here. So what I've done to cheat is I'm using a character template. Now you can get loads of these on the internet. Sometimes they're really helpful. Sometimes they're a real hindrance. I personally don't like to use them because I like the character. I kind of have a sense of the character. Kind of, it's not always so much as what they say, but of what they look like as what they would say. So maybe it normally starts with how they would react to something. So, you know, I might kind of have like this imaginary scene in my head where this character would respond to something that happened. And from that, I'll kind of build the character out. But what I've done is I have taken this template and I've stripped it down into the basics because we've got a lot to get through in this session. So obviously things name, nicknames, aliases. Yeah, they could possibly have that. I didn't even type that right. Positive attributes. So positive attributes, negative attributes. It's good. It's very easy when you're writing a hero character, like a protagonist, which is like your heroes, to make them all positive because you want them to be wonderful. But it's that reason that I kind of find Superman a little bit boring. Because if you only have positive attributes, it makes the story really dull. Where stories get interesting is when you have characters fucking things up because of who they are. So I'm not saying you necessarily want all your characters to be complete fuck-ups, but negative attributes are usually quite handy because all good stories rely on conflict. And that can be, you know, it's not just hitting each other with swords, although that is perfectly good, but sometimes it's that interpersonal kind of conflicts, which is good, you know. So, you know, two guys love the same woman, and they compete for it, and there's that kind of tension between them. That's really good to have. You want that kind of thing. Or, you know, two people have to work together, but one person killed the other person's father, or, you know, I'm going very, very tropey there. But it's that sort of thing that you think, ooh. And that's what generally hooks you into a story, is because you go, you know, if somebody says Bob is the perfect knight and the princess has been captured and he has to rescue her, you think, well, Bob's already the perfect knight. Why is he? What's this? He's gonna win. You know he's gonna win. And even though in the back of our heads we know when we pick up a novel or a story that, you know, if we're following the story of Bob, it's very, very unlikely that Bob isn't gonna succeed. We're not, if in truth, when we read a story, we're not interested in whether they succeed or not. We're interested in that how they overcome the objects to achieve that. So that's where positive and negative attributes can be good, because you can get really complex there, and you end up with really complex character dynamics. So age, just to think. Now, descriptions. Now, one of the things that I am terrible at doing in my first drafts, I tend to do it when I revise, is describing things. And I'm doing a piece of work at the moment, potential commercial work on a different project. This is a short project, but it requires a lot of description. And I'm really, like, in the first draft, I'm noticing just how much I don't do that. So I need to have this, because I don't, you know, you can as a writer sometimes say, well, I'm going to take a day out and I'm just going to think about this character and try and get this character to pop off the page, because you kind of want that before you start writing. But if you need to kind of shortcut that, a really good tip and a kind of a hack, if you like, is cast an actor or actress for that role. Because automatically you can kind of go, well, how do I describe that character? Oh, you know, it is basically Idris Elba is playing this character in my book, and it makes it easier for them to describe. It sometimes gives you a hint of mannerisms as well, because you were kind of in your head, you're imagining that actor playing that character, so that can sometimes be helpful. So that we're going to be doing that. We're going to be choosing actors, mainly because I haven't got a lot of time, and because literally description is something I tend to do in like a second, or other than bare bones description is what I tend to do in a second draft. Dreams. Now that doesn't mean what they think about what they think about while they're asleep. It means what's their aspirations. What is their hope? What's the thing that they would love, you know, love to be, love to do? Their most important thing. And this is an interesting thing, is what do they value the most? Now this could be something physical, or it could be like a relationship they would have with somebody, or a feeling, or something like that. So again, it gives us a little bit there. This one again, from my list that I chose from, reaction to defeat. That is sometimes quite telling, you know, like literally they do something, it goes wrong. Are they going to be more inclined to give up? Are they going to say, you know, never mind guys, we'll do it this time? You know, that might be a negative attribute. It can lead into, they all feed into each other, you know, in the they're overconfident, too hopeful, things like that. And that would cause tension. We want to cause tension. We want our characters to have a terrible ride through this, because it's going to make for a good story. A secret. So some might be holding secrets. I tend to find these as I write, to be honest. But if there's something, you know, if we do know it up front, that's kind of handy. USP stands for unique selling point. And basically, this is kind of a note to ourselves to say, why are they in this story? What do they bring in it? Maybe they're the Joker of the pack. They're going to give the light effect. You know, maybe they're the hardened warrior. So therefore they're going to be really good in battle scenes. So what's their unique? What makes them unique? Why? You know, at some point, no doubt, I am going to start killing people left, right, and center. Why do, you know, think of this. Why do we need this character for season 2? You know, so that's unique. And finally, magic. What magic can they do? Is there anything special about their magic? Things like that. So I've tried to keep it fairly short. The one that I took this from has like 50, 60 questions. So if you are writing your own stories, you would probably want to do, you might want to do more of this. Sometimes you just want to write, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. So what we are going to do is literally we're going to do this for each character. So let's see what we need to have. So we need protagonists. Now, I am writing. Now, the protagonists are what your heroes are. So if it was Star Wars, it would probably be Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie, R2 and C-3PO. Okay, that would be kind of the example I would use. Now, you have this thing called point of view within writing. And this is something we need to consider with our protagonists. If you think of, well, Star Wars is a bad example because it's all seen through the viewpoint of the droids mostly. But whose story do we want to tell, right? So if you think of Star Wars, the protagonist really in that, whilst you've got that gang, it's really Luke, Leia and Han. Chewie and the droids, they're still there. They still have a story, but they're kind of sidekicks. So you have to, and so when you're, well, you know, if there is a scene, there is a scene about Luke, there is a scene about even Han isn't, well, I suppose Han is in some scenes on the Death Star. The droids do get used as a point of view sometimes, but their story is less important. It's more to inform what's going on. So I am going to be writing from the point of view of multiple protagonists. And the reason I am doing this is because of the nature of the story. Okay? If I just have one main protagonist and I write them into a corner, which is going to happen at some point, then I'm stuck coming the next day. What I want to be able to do is go, okay, Bob, I don't know what happens next with their story. I need some, you know, sometimes I will take a day off writing to think about things. And, you know, even though I know the direction of the story, what happens next? What's the next scene about? By having number of protagonists and all looking, sort of following them, it allows me to kind of switch it out if I get stuck. Okay? This is a cheat. So we need, I am saying here, I'm going to say 4 or 5 protagonists. And this is purely coming from the fact that I want options. I'm trying to give myself as much space. I am trying to not do anything now that will screw me over later. If I was writing a novel, I might be 1 or 2. Okay, because you tighten the story. Kind of bring it in, you tell what the core story is. This is a different format, so I want more. So we want 4 or 5 protagonists. There's a bit of work there. We've got the person from the advanced civilization. They only appear very shortly, so I don't need to do a lot with them. We've got the lords. So obviously the person for the advanced civilization, when they open the portals. So if you haven't followed, the basic story is medieval world. They find these wormhole crystals from an advanced civilization. They used to be a colony. The advanced civilization, when they do faster than light travel, it tears holes in reality. Basically, this allowed the big bad to come through, which we were saying it's like Zerg, think Zerg Doom meets Starship Troopers. That kind of big bad of a swarm or something like that, with kind of queens in you know, the kind of the big queen in charge. Aliens is a good one to think of as well there. And basically, in fighting them, the civilization died. They lost all their faster than light travel. So these colonies forgot their heritage, and they're basically reverted back to a medieval world. And but we are going to have somebody who understands this history, in our early scenes. So you need to think about that. There are lords and serfs in our fantasy world before they go through the portal. So we might need to come up with one lord. I think one lord would be a good idea. And then we need to kind of work out the big bad, what we're going to call them, and what the kind of the people in charge are. So I think we're going to start. Let's start with the easy one, because we're going to start with the big bad. Right. So what I would do here is I'm thinking they're like a swarm, like the swarm, the horde. And what I'm thinking is, right, all those words have probably been taken. You know, the horde is, you know, is World of Warcraft. I mean, they've probably all been doing. The swarm, the I'm trying to think. It needs like a really good name. So what are their positive attributes? While we think of this. Normally, sometimes I'll get stuck and I'll just come up with something that is just random letters. And a little trick here as well is that what I will tend to do is, especially with your protagonists, try and start your names with a different letter and end slightly differently. They need to kind of look a little bit different on the page, because your reader will get mixed up between Andy, Adrian, Arthur, you know, and if you have Andrew and Bandrew, I know Bandrew isn't a name, but do you know what I mean? It's because they're very similar, so they need to be quite distinct. So they are. With this, we're doing our group of a swarm of aliens. So it's more their nickname, isn't it? The horde, swarm. You know, I'm gonna. We'll do that later. Let's see. I think you can do it in Word actually. So let's take swarm. Is thesaurus. So we're using just teams. We're just using a thesaurus basically to have a look. The flock, the crowd, the throng, the stream, the surge. Surge is Halo though, isn't it? The flood. The flood is definitely Halo. The sea, hive. I'm still thinking about this bit. So as what will happen is, if nothing crops out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump back to what I'm doing and just keep coming back to it. And maybe something way we do here. So we just put swarm for the moment. We are going to change it. They are very effective at large numbers. The negative attributes is, we said yesterday, is that they are, or yesterday, Friday, they're mindless. Need to be instructed. So what are they going to look like? Okay. So we said crab meats. What does the... I don't think that they have dreams. I think this is, with some of these, we're not going to answer every question. So, they need to be instructed in large numbers. I'm going to leave this windows open because I'm just thinking of a word. This is what tends to happen, is I don't think of something. Grove now. Here we go. This would be interesting. I thought this was... So, I thought drove. So drove obviously drove is like the past of drive, but if you think of it as a noun, a herd or flock of animals being driven in a body, drove of cattle. So you've got herd, flock, pack, fold. I like the drove. So I'm going to say that's their nickname, though, because they're going to probably be called something with weird letters. So nobody's actually going to know their true name, though, are they? Not initially. They just come through. They're not going to make introductions. They're just going to overtake. Oh, no, they may do, because when they ask for the tribute. Let's try something. This is how I kind of make it. I want to be able to pronounce this. So I just kind of think, first of all, I think of a letter, what to start with. Let's do C-A-L. Apostrophes they look good on the page. They can make things be difficult to read. Because it's very easy to go, oh, we'll just do that. Oh, no. Or something like that, you know. And that's great, but somebody who's reading and who kind of reads aloud in their head is not going to pronounce it. So that says Asia. I'm thinking Asia. I'm just trying to put interesting sounds together. Calasia. Right, so are we going to make jokes because it's got arse in the title? Maybe, maybe not. But that'll do for now. So that's their name of the race. But they're gonna be known as the Drove. So they're mindless, they need to be instructed. Insect. They have no dreams. The most important thing is to consume, basically. Reaction to defeat. Sacrifice is worthy, really. They're not gonna, you know, basically if they meet unmeetable, overcoming, they're still gonna swarm, aren't they? No magic. What's their unique selling point? Is probably their look, right? No secret. No secret. Age is going to be anything because they're just literally. So that's the big bad. Okay. What about the big bad? We called them the queens. Take another template. Okay. So, I don't like the name. I'm thinking my inspiration for calling them queens is just to think of like from Aliens. But I kind of want something like description. Oh. So I'm thinking Diablo, legend, kind of something with a big alien queen. What I normally do is I will write this as I need it. Humanoid. Oh, you know. Oh, I know what I'm thinking of. They've got. What's it from? They have like spider bodies, and then they've got like this kind of like almost like, you know how like the Queen Alien has that kind of fanned head. So okay, let's just. I'm gonna put that down there because we're gonna tighten this up a bit. They have like the spider body, so spider body, human torso. Like a demonic head. Horns. And skull. sometimes when I'm cheating, I will just use this description and allow, like, I might say, oh, they have a fan skull, and that might mean different things to different readers, and I don't have a problem with that. Sometimes it's better to, especially with kind of if you've got creating a race. But I like it. They've got spider body, human torso, like a human ish torso, like a big demonic head. So I like that. So the positive attributes, and we're not talking about positive in terms of what we would see as positive. We're talking about them. They're intelligent, cunning, know how I want to say to push people's buttons, but it's not. It's no manipulate. Now you might say that's not a positive attribute, knowing how to manipulate people, but it is for them and their race. Let's. I'm thinking Jai. Jai. I'm thinking give it like a similar kind of feel to that. But, you know, it's a difference between the now you might say, well, wait a minute, didn't you just say use different things for the end name? And I did, but I think because they look like spiders, I think we call them the spiders rather than the queens. So these would have multiple legs, I think. Okay. So they have that. They've all got multiple legs, so like spiderish, but with these are more crabby and these are more spidery. These have no head, pincers. It should be all pincers and grabby things. Do you see what I mean? So that's what I'm thinking for them. Notice how I'm swapping between the two. So sometimes I'm trying to contrast, but I'm kind of think of like if I don't paint, I don't draw, but if I was painting, I was like, well, how do I look at them and how do they look similar? I'm going to leave that there as a separate line, okay, just so we've got that for reference. I'm flitting between several different things here. The reactions, I'm thinking, how would they react? You know, what is it that you want? You know, if I was almost like I'm interviewing them. What is it that what is it that you want? And they want everything, you know. So their most important thing. Where's the drones? Calling the drove, aren't we? The drove is just to consume. It's just like you set them forth and they like a plague of lotus. Is to gather resources. Well, now why I'm writing a world without need here? Because I'm trying to dive into it, and they live in a world where the resources are few, and the idea kind of almost is that if you kind of think of these as like a plague of lotus. If you grew a load of corn, then your workforce just kind of constantly dows through it. So that's why they constantly need to replenish supplies. So you can imagine if you're in charge of that, no matter how much you have, the drove will always breed and grow to such a size that, you know, even if you take over whole worlds, that's not enough. So their dream is imagining being in a position where they no longer need to search these things out. They have enough. But their most important thing is that we need to gather resources. You need to constantly do it. So their reaction to defeat is going to be surprised, because it doesn't often happen. But they will redouble their efforts. Do they have a secret? No, not that I want. I mean, maybe in, like, you know, if it carries on season 2, we discover that, I don't know, that they were somehow related to the ancient civilization. You know, those kind of things. But for initial, I'm considering the start of this to be from the very start up until our heroes get abandoned in the portal world. So nothing for that. Unique selling point. I think is their cunning. It's just that they're going to be really rich to write. I mean, I'm kind of thinking of how I would write them at the moment. And actually, it's not so much cunning. They don't. I'm going to put it in here. They don't have traditional needs. And what I mean by they don't have traditional needs is that gold and money mean nothing to them, right? Having willing tributes to get body parts so that they, you know, this goes back to another. I'm jumping all over the place. Stop me if I'm rambling, but they don't have traditional needs because they don't want. What they want is body parts. So their dream is also a new intelligent drove. Notice that we're creating some sort of conflict between the spiders and the drove. They're a necessity. They are their army. They're the army of the big bad race. But they consume everything. They're not intelligent. I think so. There must be some frustration within the spiders that literally, well, you know, if only we had the drove but more intelligent. You know, you set them to work against a planet, they'll overrun it, but they'll turn it barren. So having those sort of intelligent middle class, not in a traditional sense middle class, but that class between the drove and the spiders, kind of will lead them to maybe being able to kind of ration their resources a little bit more. You know, you get a new world. It's gone. Oh yeah, Raz says, yeah, the old, you can't get the staff plate. Yeah, kind of that. It's that building the tension. That's what we want. That's what we want to do. And we don't have to play on it all the time. We don't need the spiders going around going, oh God, what have the drove done now? But having a little bit where that, you know, you kind of realise that they go, well, you know, this is why we need the third race, is because if we could conserve our resources, we wouldn't have to attack all these worlds all the time. You know, asking for tribute or demanding tribute is very time consuming, and you know, I can kind of see this whole sort of play, especially as we're never going to see anything from the thing of the drove, right? They're just mindless. So I think that's our big bad. That big bad looks good. So let's choose another easy one. Let's do the Lord. Then we're going to get a bit more into traditional kind of stuff here. The name will be Lord Somebody. I would suspect that if they were in charge of the serfs would have some sort of play on name. So we might need to... Well, that may give us a... So I'll give you an example. Right. So if you have Lord Farquhar, I don't like the name Farquhar because I think that it's too Shrekky. It's too unusual. Everybody thinks of Shrek. But basically, if you had Lord Farquhar, you can imagine the serfs saying, "Oh yeah, Lord Fartas." It's kind of got the same alliteration, so something along the lines like that. Right. Okay. So, notice how I'm doing this thing where I am kind of saying something and then walking away from it, which is a really good kind of exercise to do if you're trying to do something. Very easy to say, I need a name, I need a name, I need a name, I need a name, and you sit there and you panic. Whereas sometimes what's better to do is just to go, right, okay, I kind of get a little bit, I know kind of what I want, but I'm not sure. Right, let's go on to the next thing. And when you're not thinking about it, you'll come back to it. So you'll see this sort of toing and froing. So, you know, the positive attributes is that as lords go, pretty good. Yeah, they're not the worst. They're fair to their staff, their serfs. Plenty of food. We want to contrast this with the, you know, that basically, you know, they're not, the serfs don't have a bad life there. Okay, as serfs go, you know. Motivated by well. Now, notice some of these things are being born out of our story because we want them to send soldiers in there. We need him to be motivated by wealth. So, because this is all about they're all consuming, let's have them have plenty of food. Let's have it to be a successful society. I don't want him to be like, oh, yay, the Lord is here. I do want the kind of serfs to kind of go, oh, God. But they could do, you know, he's bad, but they could do worse. Aloof. I can't even spell aloof. That's not how you spell aloof. I don't know. That's why I think my watches keeps buzzing at me and I keep thinking... So, age, let's put him in his 50s. What is his dream? His dream has got to be something along the lines of... I'm splitting between these three in my head and I need to speak out loud, and it's an interesting thing because normally I would just think on these things. So, his dream is that, you know, I think that he's where he is. I've kind of already got this image in my head, is like this little Scottish castle kind of in the Highlands. You know, it's not the most affluent of areas. It does all right. People get fed, things like that. But it's raining all the time. It's miserable, you know. Dreams, you know, of a big kingdom, I suppose. Kingdom is not the big duchy. I'm going to write duchy for now. It's not the right word. Again, don't be afraid to write the wrong thing and then go back and change it. It's very easy that when you're writing or planning to literally go, oh, I can't get that one thing, and it stops everything else. So I'll write it now. I often say the thing, I'll put that there, but I know it's wrong. But I'll come back to it and then go, oh, it's obviously something else. His most important thing to him is it's not power, it's not respect, it's influence, which comes from money. He's a small-time lord, but he's not that small that people don't ignore him. But he's not like the big players, so he wants better influence. He wants the money and power, I suppose. So there, his reaction to defeat is it's got to be. I think that's inaction, because I was going to write, oh, surprise, but we've written that for the other character. Right? That doesn't mean that, you know, they have to be. In many ways, that he contrasts against the spider, so we should see similar things. But what I tend to do there is, if I see that one character turns right in a kind of decision, sometimes the answer is to turn left with the other one. So I still haven't got an act. I'm thinking of an actor to play him. I'm thinking of an actor in their 50s. It would be good like this. So yeah, the reason they're reaction to a defeat is they'd be surprised, but they become a deer in headlights. They don't know what to do. Now that is dictated by our story, okay? Because we need the you know, the drove to kind of flood over and take things over. This was an idea I had earlier. It's a little bit tropey, but you know. What's their unique selling point? So they represent that person in charge in the medieval world. So they're the token, if you like, of authority within this world. Magic, no, because we said there's no magic other than those that so we got K, we got J. I am gonna go. I know this sounds so stupid, but I just literally use let's use a letter that we don't often use. Looking at my keyboard, so I want to save like the W's, the S's for like my main characters. So let's Lord Quentin. That gives kind of. I know Quentin is normally a first name, but that could be his surname, Lord Quentin. It gives that kind of, it's slightly kind of posh name, it's kind of thing. It gives that vibe. So what actor are we going to have play him? Who are we going to cast in him? And sometimes when we cast an actor, we are also allowed to cast an actor when they're younger. So, you know, if you choose somebody, you know, or have them age up, you know, we can have, you know, Brad Pitt, but in his 20s, or, oh God, some actor who's in their 20s, but in their 60s. You know, you can age up and age down. So I'm going to go for John Malkovich. This, as I say, I'm going to struggle with this a little bit, so I may need some help with these, because I don't tend to do these character templates. So I'm kind of thinking that he's there, sort of, oh, you can't really see within the camera, but he's kind of slouched and he's silly. You know, John Malkovich does a really good job of playing like this kind of uninterested character, but still makes themselves interesting. Slightly bored, you know, he's slightly a little bit bored. Which would lead for him to have illegitimate children. That I cannot spell illegitimate. I think this is bad. One of the things that I've got is that in my computer, because I'm working on stuff that's both for American companies and for British companies, I have 2 language packs installed, and I literally drive myself insane with knowing whether I've spelled something the right way or not, because it's checking against the American versus English. So it's like leaned versus lent. You know, it's different ways of spelling things. So that's something to get on with. Again, these are what can happen, and you'll probably see. You'll point back to this. Is that we'll start with this, and this will end up being, I don't know, Sean Connery. Template. Notice I'm saving the difficult ones for last. So the person from the advanced civilization. Now, I am going to make a choice here that this is again a little trick. Because we are going from a world that is like our medieval world into like a weird world, I'm going to make the names in the medieval world seem quite normal. And the reason for that is that I kind of want this kind of underlying sense that we've gone somewhere strange. Right? So I will have more fantasy kind of names in the weird Western world. Notice I haven't done any characters for that because that's enough down the line that I don't need to worry about it right now to start things off. Some writers will want to do everything first. I needed to have an idea of the fantasy world we were going to just to understand the direction and kind of set up some of the conflict, you know, and the contrast that we're going to come into play. But I don't need to know any of the characters just yet. I can make those up as I go along. It's not enough for me to start. So now we're going to go for the person Lord Advanced Civilization. So one of the things I considered is, do we need them? And the reason being is I wondered whether you could take the person from the Advanced Civilization and the archaeologist and make them into the same character. Because what is the purpose? So if we so what is their unique selling point? They create the first draft. That's their sole role in this. That's all they need to achieve. So what if the way that they create it is because they get their magic abilities and they come to that decision, that small group of protagonists discover those abilities themselves, and as a result of that, that's why they band together. They don't need to be kind of said you. Although, who drafts them then? Do they draft themselves? So, I'm very tempted thinking here in the background is that we need to warn, somebody needs to warn Lord Quentin that sending all the soldiers into creating all the portals is a bad thing. So maybe we do need another character, a separate character. Let's create them anyway, but these are the sort of things that you'll play with. And like sometimes what I will do is I'll do a first draft, and I'll have the archaeologist, and I will have the person from the Advanced Civilization. And in the first draft they're separate people, but I will merge them into a later draft. How about this then? We make the archaeologist the same. We do merge them together, but thinking letters. I'm looking at my keyboard. What's an unusual letter? I was going to put X and then write Xavier, and then I just looked up and went Professor Xavier. No, it's not going to happen. So maybe not Professor X. Ordinary names, but I'm also looking at my keyboard and I'm going, right, if I'm going for an ordinary name, use something that doesn't use an ordinary name for their real name. So I'm thinking Galia. That's a name. Sometimes very easy to look at a name and go, oh, I don't know about that. I used to worry about names a lot more than I did. I do sometimes as I go back and as I write. When I go to a second draft, I go, that name's not right for that character. Sometimes you just know it. But I kind of want something that is... I don't like the IA on that. the end. I want something a little bit more. Garliacs. Is there any name that begins with U? UG that, you know. Why I'm putting Gary here, I think it's a terrible name. Absolutely terrible. What I'm thinking is, like, can we take something, you know, if my name is, like, Adrian, can I use Ian? Do you know what I mean? That you kind of take something from your old name. Gary's an awful name, Professor Gary. It's not. Brennan. So his secret is he's from the advanced civilization. Okay. So I'm thinking reaction to defeat. So they're gonna be like synced from this because they've tried to avoid it. The most important thing to them is not opening wormholes. When I was writing it up, I used the word rifts. So I'm gonna put rifts in there because we might use that terminology. So they can sometimes have dreams that are bigger and like impossible. You know, it's very easy to say, oh well, this character wants world peace. Few people in real life actually want world peace. They may say they want world peace. What they instead want is to make an impact. So I want to bring about world peace. It's more about them than it is the world peace. It's big enough that they become kind of they establish themselves as having done that big thing, and that's more important than having done the bad thing, being the person. So maybe so he can have a dream that's just unrealistic. You know, maybe his dream is, you know, one day I'm going to find these artifacts and we're going to be able to bring back the old civilization and we can have things as it was good, you know, back when things were good. But, you know, in order to do that, you don't want to be opening any wormholes rifts because you knows what happens. So let's make him sort of 45. Positive attributes. Oh, he's kind. And as soon as I've written that, I'm thinking he is sending them to die. He's willing to sacrifice for his causes. So, you know, if it means that they have to, you know, he's the type of person that go, look, the wormhole is open and this world's being overrun. They may overwork the whole galaxy. Fine, blow up the whole planet. That's a worthy, you know, worthy to do. So that's why he's willing to push the first draft into the thing. And he said, yeah, we lose them, but we save the world. So that's kind of a negative attribute. He's kind. He's intelligent. I'm flipped between the two, you notice. So I'm going to negative attributes because I'm thinking he's going to bring the device. Maybe he won't bring the device, but he's in a world where they kind of want power. So maybe he's a little bit ignorant of people's negative behavior. Thinks the best of people. And notice that's like, I'm going to put that as a good thing as well. So part of the thing is, it's like when we're doing this, he gives over. You know, when we first meet him, obviously you're gonna know what's gonna happen, but we're kind of like, oh, he's like a really good person. He's thing, and then because he's willing to sacrifice for his causes, when he sort of sends the people through to the through the portal to kind of tear it apart, you think that he's doing a noble thing. You know, he is doing a noble thing, but it's not in their best interest to do that. So his reaction is to sink. Do what's necessary. So I think that he's a bit mercenary, and I don't mean like they go out and hire themselves out, but he's a bit mercenary in his approach to things. The ends justify the means. So, there we go. We think of an actor. Oh, I'm gonna do it on my phone because I'm looking on my phone for this. So, who was the actor who was in Chernobyl? Somebody Harris? Jared Harris, is it? No, TV series, not the actual disaster. So, oh no, TV series. Yeah, Jared Harris. I think he could, you know, if you were casting, he could play that kind of, he's kind, he's friendly, but he can kind of turn on the moment. So we've made some little bit, notice we've made a little bit of a change here to the plot. In that, basically, originally, the person from the advanced civilization and the archaeologist were two different people. We've now merged them into one. So, but that's okay. That's the way stories go. You wait till we start writing this. It'll be interesting if you know, if we're like 60 episodes in, how much of this is still true. How much has just been tweaked as it's written. There are times when I'll go, right, okay, what's the character supposed to do? They're supposed to do X. And then what happens is I make them do Y. Because why not? So we now get to our protagonists. These are the most difficult. These are the ones that I would honestly agonize for weeks over. I really would. And this is where it scares me a little bit, because I get these wrong, it gets boring. So I'm going to just put 2. Again, I'm flitting around a little bit to kind of, I'm trying to get this done, so I'm flipping from one to the other. So, I want to choose normalish names for them. Just because it's going to... I'm having one male, one female at the moment. So, I'm swapping between the two. And the reason I've gotten both up is because I do want them to kind of contrast each other a little bit. Mary seems like a... The reason I want Mary is because I had an idea earlier on as a thing. She is the... Yeah, she's the illegitimate daughter of Lord Quentin. All of these people are outcasts. So why are they outcasts? I'm thinking, I'm if you like, I'm producing a spider web in my head that says, well, what would be the result of she's the illegitimate? she's been sort of cast out. She hates authority. So she's really against the thing. Let's make her 24. It's very easy. I was gonna write tough here, but tough is a really. What does that tell us? What does that help? How does that help me? I'm flitting between each of these and trying to, if you like, imagine this central thing, right? She's the illegitimate daughter of Lord Quentin, right? So, what negative? Oh, that she hates authority. Okay, so what would that? How would that affect her dreams? How would that make? What would that make her most important thing? How would her reaction to defeat be? She has got magic, yes. She has mutant magic. As we said, they eat something and... I'm also in the back of my head thinking of all the different characters I'm writing on other things as well. So, oh, okay. This is helping me. I'm thinking of, is it Zelander? She plays, she plays the Mary Jane in the latest Spider-Man movies. She's kind of got this kind of little bit of a... No, it's not Zelander. Oh, Mary Jane. Spider-Man. Kirsten Dunst. God, loads of people play. She's not Mary Jane. Is she Gwen Stacy? She must be. I'm looking through. Let's just go to IMDb. I'm not. If you've just joining me, I am looking up details. I'm doing it on my phone because I'm streaming and like just changing the screen will just screw up the stream. So I am looking on my phone. Spider-Man. It wants me to download a load of apps. MJ. Oh, she's known as MJ in it. So she is Zendaya. I can't even pronounce her name. She's a great actress. Yeah. So she's a little bit kind of... Even the Mary works with that kind of thing, right? So her dreams is like, you know, so the minorities are all in this kind of... I'm thinking like Robin of Sherlock kind of thing, where all the minorities have gone to live in the woods because they can't work as serfs. the most important thing? See, I say that, and then I literally jump over to something else. It's literally what I do is my brain will go, oh, I don't want to think about that. I'll give you the answer for something else instead. So... So a reaction to defeat, I think initial... She just takes a moment. She's just like, oh, God, no. And then she'll be like, right, what do I need to do? Okay. Quirky sense of humor. I'm taking this from... Taking this from kind of the character of MJ. This is to say, I'm cheating. So quirky sense of humor. I don't like the word the minorities. It's a little bit too obvious, but for what we're trying to do. She distrusts people. She's not very trusting. So, I think that her dream is that her father accepts her. She might not admit that to herself, but I think that's what she secretly wants. It's a physical thing. Cool. I feel like I want to put something here which is a little bit more noble. That, you know, is to, you know, represent her people and things like that. But I think sometimes what you can do is you can fall into a trap with that. So sometimes it's like, well, that's a little bit like, if we're, you know, not being realistic, but kind of writing stereotypically, that's a bit selfish. The most important thing is the item from her mother. So I think she's a natural leader. So, one of the other characters I was thinking about is that let's say David. Just for some reason, just like David comes into my head. You may find when I start writing this tomorrow, all these names change. I want a disabled character, and the reason being is I was thinking about how these people sacrifice bits of their bodies, you know, the tributes, the drover trying to, you know, build this new class by adding things on. So, I thought having a character that was disabled. Hi, Bob, how you doing? We're going through characters at the moment, so we have so far, if you've just joined us, we've decided that our big bad are known as the Drove. I am going to do a Google search a bit later, and if I find that there's something else, I will basically look at like the fold or the pack or something like that. Oh, Bob's good. Well, good to hear. So, yeah, so we basically, I mean, they're insects, so there's not a lot to really do there. But we've called them the Kalassi. And then for the queens, we called them the spiders. The clack. I like that. That might be something that they kind of nickname. I'm going to put that down. Clack as in like the Dr. Zoidberg. So I've put that in there. But the Jalassi are the intelligent ones. So we've given them like a spidered body, human torso, demonic head. I'm trying to think what that's from. I think it's Diablo. Sure, I'm stealing stuff from Diablo. So we've then done our Lord. We said he's Lord Quentin. As Lords go, he's not bad, but he's motivated by wealth. He's not really in touch with these serfs. We're doing an actor playing them, John Malkovich, we decided. They kind of want money and power because we need them to do that in this story. So then we've merged the person from the advanced civilization with the architect. The archaeologist. We've made them one and the same. And so we've kind of got potentially an interesting character here where they're really nice, but the ends justify the means. So literally when he throws them all into the portal, he thinks that they all think that he's acting in their best interests, and he's not. He's acting in the world's best interests. Basically have screwed them over. So and we also had to establish, because why would he be doing that and letting the Lord get hold of it? So we kind of said that he's a little bit ignorant he always thinks the best of people. So you'd think that Lord Quentin would do the right thing. No, he's not. Obvious to everybody other than him. So we gave him the Ugaliax was his kind of advanced civilization known, but he's known as Professor Brennan. And we said, like, we want the characters, the main protagonists, like the ones with the magic abilities who'll go through the pool. We want about 4 or 5 of those. And we've said we want to give them fairly normal names because we kind of want it to kind of subconsciously feel that they're going to they're traveling into a normal to a foreign world. So we're going to try and, although it's fantasy elements, we're going to try and make that feel a little bit normal, so that as they go through the world, and we'll use more advanced names there. So we've got Mary. She's in charge. Her dad is actually Lord Quentin, natural leader. We said MJ from Spider-Man is kind of our inspiration for that. Hates authority, distrusts people. She's got kind of quirky sense of humor. She leads the serfs that kind of can't find work. They're in the minority. So that's where we're at. So David, he's disabled. He's the only character who I really had an idea of before this. And I don't. Do I need to put the actor? But I'm just going to put the character they play, Luke Cage, from Netflix. So positive attributes is he's basically a hard worker, right? So farming. So Luke Cage lost the hand in the farming incident. Because he's had to put up with like losing his hand and all that. He's just somebody who stands tall. Literally, when something goes wrong, he'll stand up. Not necessarily as yeah, so he stands tall. Sorry, I'm flitting around with 101 ideas and trying to speak at the same time. So he's got magic, mutant magic. Interesting thing I'm thinking of here is, do we give each of these characters slightly different variations of mutant magic? Like, is it I eat an apple, I turn into stone, become mutant, turn into stone, and whoever eats the apple with our ability thing then is kind of they gain that ability? Or do we say, look, if you eat the magic apple, if you eat the apple because you've now thing, David will turn into the rock character. I'm not going to do rock characters. I've already got one in something else. And Mary will have her special ability. So they have one special ability that gets triggered. Or is it that the food dictates what the magic ability is, or does it the person? That's kind of what I'm going for. So, just put in 30s. I think his positive attributes is noble. He's doing the right thing. Trying to think of what their negative abilities are, negative attributes are. Sometimes it comes out in the writing. Angers easily. Not in a kind of a violent way, but just like they have a hot temper. Gets frustrated. That I'm thinking of because they literally have a disability. Trying to work with that becomes frustrating. So they get frustrated. They get a hot temper. It just gets too much for them sometimes. What do they dream of? I'm gonna plow ahead with. I've got another character coming to me. Yeah. Maybe Raz says maybe the type of food defines the type of magic. Maybe which elements. Okay, but the individual determines how strong it is and how bad the side effects, if any. Yeah. Okay. I like that. Yeah. Gotta have limits with magic. Magic, the real danger with magic, if you have a magic in a thing, is that if you make it too powerful, it becomes a MacGuffin. So literally then, as we said, like when you read a story, you know that they're going to succeed in the end, but you want them to have sufficient challenges. So if you limit the magic, the more you limit the magic, probably the better the story is in many ways. Because it's then, well, my magic can't solve this problem. So how do I solve it? And I'll give you a classic example. I'm using something at the moment. I'm writing something at the moment, commercial project. And it's got each person, it's two groups of people. Each person has one unique ability. And they're kind of effectively in two teams at the moment. And do you know something? Literally, I'm like, I should have thought of this a little bit more. Because, and this is one of the things I probably want to do here, is that I really look at games. I'm not just saying that this because we're on Twitch. I look at gaming for magic a lot. Or kind of like filling certain roles. Because I think, right, to be an effective fighter, you need a healer, you need a tank, and you need a DPS. And I often use that when I come up with characters. Because it's pretty handy, because then when you've got a team, you know you've got what kind of a well-rounded team. Yeah, you don't want it to become a sonic screwdriver. No. Literally. This other character I thought of. Now, I'm going to go with Jackson. Oh, no, I could literally go Jackson rather than... He is about 19. And I'm thinking, is his name Thomas Brody? It's Thomas Brody Sangster. That's his name. He was... what was he in? Looking in IMDb at the moment. He was in Maze Runner. And Love, actually. Oh, and he was also in The Queen's Gambit, if you watch that. He's kind of a little bit kind of quirky. Okay. Nickname, he would have Jax. He is the Joker of the... He's the Joker of the group. See, now, this is normally what I would... pretty much everything I would do to set up a character. I've got another one already. And I need to fill them in. Because I don't like doing the filling in bit, but I'm just going to go with where my head is taking me. We can start building these up. Don't know their name. Their USP is they are the swordsman. Right. So, notice what I'm doing here. They have no sense of humor. They are, you know, oh, who was in Walking Dead and in The Punisher? Thinking him. If you're wondering why I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at IMDb on my phone. There we go. It was John Bernthal. I'm going to put these down and then Yep. So he is determined. His reaction to defeat is to be tactical about it. Yeah, so sorry, I was going all over the place. So one of the things you notice I'm doing here is I've created a character who is like a Joker. And then I've immediately created a character who doesn't have a sense of humor, trying to create that conflict. I'm also thinking, so literally, just so you're aware of where I am. I've got 3 men and 2 women so far. So some of these may not be points of view characters. If I find I've got too many, I'm gonna kill one off. Whoever's boring. Notice I'm going for lots of different age ranges. I'm trying to cause as much thing. I'm thinking of somebody who's a larger size, but I don't want to get into like the body shaming element of it. But maybe she's always hungry. But let's make her, but just to counter that, let's make her that body positive. She can't handle defeat. I'm playing with like a lot of tropes here. So like I'm thinking like, you know, she's a comfort. Why is she kind of over thing? Because she comfort eats. And I'm not gonna play heavily on that, but just I'm gonna she'd be the type to go, oh my god, guys, you wouldn't believe this thing. So she is a little bit shallow, maybe. It seems all a little bit negative, but she is. She's let's make her self-aware. She knows who she is. She knows her faults. You know, unlike some of the others, she can sort of see through them and all things like that. If this was like a modern world, her dream might be like being in a big show or something like that. Maybe. Sort of her dreams are maybe joining a traveling circus then, maybe. As an entertainer, as a bard. Let's make her the bard, yeah. So her USP is she's the... Not that we, you know, again, we're not going to have like this bard magic kind of thing. So, let's put Julie for now. What I may do with some of these is kind of make them read as Julie. So this Jackson might become JXXON. So a little kind of visual trick. So it reads as that, and you know, but it still looks a little bit foreign on the page. So he's always upbeat, an optimist. Pulls pranks. Talks a lot. Can be quite annoying. Dreams. Maybe he wants to be a jester. He does it because he wants to make people, he wants to entertain. So there is a little bit of this and I've got two J's. Can't be Julie. Gina. With a Y. It does look like gynecologist though, so maybe not that. So actress for that. Sometimes, like literally the way that I work is I don't actually have an idea of what they it is Jenny Ryan. Okay, so if you've seen The Chase, that's who I'm kind of thinking. Now you'll go, but she can't act. She's just on a UK a quiz show. She is known. What's she known as? She's in the Vixen. Every time I see Jenny Ryan, I'm gonna think of what's her name from 7 of 9. It's not her. It's her. Maybe if she got, you know, put on a bit of weight. Now, the unique selling point of this character is let's take out Bard. got a name for the Punisher character, the warrior. Yes, mutant magic. Again, look at me, Dave. So let's put him in his late 30s. Drummond. Comes from nowhere, no idea. What have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5. That's enough to be getting on with. Okay. So I'm going to add an extra question to these. Why thrown out of serfdom? I want to know this for all my characters. Why are they there? Copy this down. I apologise if my scrolling is kind of thing, but we're almost there with this. I'm going to aim to get this all done by 5 o'clock. So this is going to... So, spell illegitimate child. Because she's the illegitimate child, that's why she was thrown out of serfdom. Her mother was, yeah? He was thrown out because couldn't get work as disabled. Why was he thrown out of serfdom? I want to say prank went wrong. I don't even know. Here's a little tip, right? So let's just put prank went wrong. This may not be ultimately why they were thrown out, but maybe he can just say, oh yeah, that prank went wrong. What that prank was and how it went wrong, I won't know until I come to write it. Choice. There used to be a soldier. Again, some of these things we can find out. Their word is the most important thing to them. Now, the obvious thing with Gina here is to say that literally something to do with food, and I don't want to make it that. So I want to make it something a little bit different. Is that, again, creating this like this tip. That maybe she knew that Jackson got thrown out. she knew Jackson before when they were both serfs, and basically, where's Jackson? He's down there. He basically starving, hadn't found like the rest of the group, and she helped him out, and because she got found helping him out, she got thrown out herself. So, you know, in moments of tension, that's going to come to the fore. So the things I'm likely to play with, right, because we've been at this for nearly 2 hours, and can't have it go on forever. So I'm looking to wind this up in the next 12 minutes or so. So what I am going to do, some of these details may change. And I'm going to tell you where I'm feeling uneasy. So I've got my 5 main characters. Got a basic idea of them. They are going to probably change. The names, I'm probably going to think about overnight. Just to kind of get something that makes that balance for me between something that seems quite familiar, yet still seems fantasy. So I like Jackson, but it's spelt like that. That kind of gets where I'm going. So like Drummond, I need to kind of Google these and just see that sometimes like you have this brilliant idea and you have this character in your head and you know what they look like, and you got it all down, and then you realize that it's something you saw like 2 or 3 years ago and you completely forgot about. So I kind of always do a check for that. The characters I'm feeling most strongly about is probably David and Jackson. I've got a good feel for them. Drummond, he's a little bit wooden. He needs a little bit of an extra dimension. But sometimes these things come out as you kind of work on them and you elaborate on them. So in the writing. So I can expect he's going to change a little bit. Gina is potentially as well. She could be really fun because literally she's going to be the character that when things are happening, she's going to be there casting magic going, fuck, 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 you know, kind of, you know, just she's going to provide some comedic relief, and so's Jackson. Drummond will be annoyed with that. That's good. I'm trying to think how they annoy each other. Like David and Drummond will have there's some sort of connection there. Whether I want to make them, I mean, you know, maybe they're just trying to twist things on the head. We want a bit more representation here, so maybe they're husbands, something like that. Now the question is do you make it so that it's something that in our fantasy world doesn't get questioned? It's like, yeah, they're husbands, yeah, so what? Or do you make it something where like homophobia is a thing? I'm thinking I've got enough characters and enough themes that I would just make it that maybe they have some sort of relationship. But he's a bit dry. I don't like Drummond as a character. I really don't. There's something about that. They're just a little bit too stereotypical. They need an angle. So that's what I'm going to be thinking about overnight. The other thing I'm going to be thinking about is that I'm going to think of them in a fight. And we haven't had time to kind of go over this. And we've got a bit of time because they're not going to be getting into a fight for quite a while. If you think of all the scenes that have got to happen. Because we find the device. the Lord's got to take the device, then they've got to start opening portals, things have got to go well for them, then, like, you know, got to warn against it, then they open the portal, that everything goes wrong, things go to crap, then they've got to form the first draft, then they've got to go in, then they've got to do the mission to try and destroy the portal. They destroy the portal and they're trapped. That's at least 10 days. That's at least 2 weeks before we'll get to kind of, you know, sort of 2 weeks before we get to any sort of battle. But I kind of want to think of like a video game and thinking like, you know, if you were, you know, it's one of these games where you're picking your team. And you're like choosing a good team for, you know, kind of to select. And what roles would they apply? Who's going to be the healer? Who's going to be buffing damage? Who's going to be doing damage? You know, they're the tank potentially. But could, scrolling all over the place, I really apologize. This must be horrible to watch. But could David maybe take some of that role? So what I'm going to do is this is what I'm going to be thinking about overnight. I've got to put these up. What I am going to do is on the website, I will eventually, it's going to take me a while to do, is I am going to do character bios. I don't expect that for a couple of weeks because whilst I've got this information and I will share it as part of this session, what's going to happen is these characters are going to change over the next few days as I start to write them. And so we will kind of get into a more in-depth character bio as we go on, and there'll be like the back material for the story that you'll be able to look at. But that is all the time I've got really to prepare for this story. So I'm a little bit nervous. So tomorrow, 3 p.m, I'm going to write one scene. It's going to be, I already know, it's going to be the scene of them finding the crystal. So it's going to involve most of these characters, most of our protagonists. What I'm going to try and do, because I'm going to be working in a piece of software called Scrivener, just because it's what I'm familiar with and it's how I work. And I can break things down by scene, is I want to plan, I've tried this again today, that I make sure that I know what my next few scenes are. Because I've got to do this sequentially and you know, I want to know where I come unstuck as a writer is I kind of go, oh, they find the device and then Lord Quentin takes it for himself, right? I've got those in my head. I know which viewpoint I'm going to do. I've kind of got a sense of that scene. So I go, great, and I relax. I write those scenes, and then I come to the next day and I go to write. And what happens is I suddenly go, oh, crap, what am I writing today? And I get a little bit lost. So what I'm going to do is always try and keep 2 scenes ahead. So I won't have written them, but I'll just have like a 1-line description of what happens. Just to buy myself some time. So with that said, I am going to end the stream now. Sorry if you've just joined. This will be uploaded as a replay, hopefully sometime later. It takes a little while to kind of download and then upload and everything to YouTube, but it should be on the YouTube sometime this evening, if not first thing tomorrow. So I apologize, I'm about to go, but do check the website and have a look at the previous episodes. If you've got any comments, let me know. Check out all my socials, and I will start to end that. So tomorrow, oh hi WAP, how you doing? I'll be checking it out on YouTube then. But yeah, apologies that I've you've only just jumped in and I'm about to jump out, but I've been going for 2 hours on characters. So if you go to my YouTube page, which is under Adrian Faulkner, I'm hovering over something that's not even on the screen. on your screen. As you can see there at the bottom center, Adrian Thornton. If you go to that YouTube page, you can see the first 2 episodes. We've done plot, we've done world building, and we're now on to characters. So we've done the characters, and we will tomorrow start writing the story. So thanks for joining, everybody. We will get to see it right live tomorrow. Let's see how this goes. I am scared. I am excited. I'm going to be thinking about these characters all night, and I'll probably end up writing something completely different, but at least you'll have that visibility. That's the idea behind this. So thanks, everybody. Hope you have a great evening, and I will see you tomorrow, 3 p.m. for the first episode of the first draft. Be excited, because you all know what's going to happen. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.